All right. So now, for those who want to ask questions, they can ask them after the meditation class, meditation practice. So in order to do so, if you go down to the Zoom screen, there are, with your arrow or with your finger, then you can see there are small icons like a microphone, the video, and some chat and so forth. In the end, there is a small face which says reactions. So you can press this palm in order for us to understand that you're going to ask a question. Then we're going to open the microphone. Therefore, most of the participants will be muted because there are some noises coming from your place of, from the place you are. So therefore, now we can use this facility with this raising the hand, and then we can know that you want to ask a question. Another alternative is just to go to the chat and type a text in the form of question, or as a last resort, you can raise your physical hand. So now, shall we start? Michael.
Yes, Bante, we are ready.
Okay. So as any other days, we're going to start with a PowerPoint presentation. It's actually a visual way how you can understand the whole practice. So as scheduled, today the class will be about insight meditation, which is called Vipassana. For those who are already familiar with this practice, they can learn something more, how to also do some other things which are very important for this meditation practice. For those who are new, of course, they learn something new, but we try to explain them as clear as possible for you to understand it. So then insight meditation was first taught by the historical Gautama Buddha more than 2,500 years ago, and is unique in its kind. In fact, it was through insight meditation that he himself achieved enlightenment and became a Buddha. Insight meditation exists today in its original form in Theravada Buddhism, which retained the Buddha's original teachings. The word used by the Buddha for this meditation is Vipassana, which means specialized, expanded, plus vision, seeing, which is called Passana. This seeing exposes the truth of the impermanency, the suffering, and unsubstantial nature of all material and mental phenomena of existence. And indeed, Vipassana does not use the usual way of meditation, but the systematic and methodical observation of material and mental phenomena for the penetration into the actual nature. Impermanence, which is called anicca, suffering, which is dukkha, and not self, which is anatta. It includes exercise in mindfulness and awareness, which is called sati sambhajanya, that are used to observe and understand the impermanent, unstable, transient nature of all mental and material phenomena, the attachment to which creates our suffering. The main principle in Vipassana meditation is observation of rise and fall of every material and mental phenomenon. Therefore, now this is what the meditator can see by observing this phenomena. A rise can be seen, fall he can see. So that every phenomena has this kind of nature to rise, stay for some time and fall. Vipassana observation is essentially to observe the rise and fall of every observed phenomenon, which indicates how the observation is to be developed to deepen understanding of the nature of mental and material phenomena under investigation. So the object of Vipassana, will be explained in the discourse who the Buddha gave. And the name of this discourse is called the Discourse on the Four Applications of Mindfulness. So therefore, mindfulness is the main mental factor which facilitates one to make this observation. So, and there are four applications. The Buddha explains in 4 ways how to apply this mindfulness. In the Pali language, it's called Satipatthana Sutta, which the Buddha called it the direct path to Nibbana. In Pali, it's called Ekaya no Mago. Satipatthana Sutta is one of the most important and widely studied and practiced discourses of the Buddha, acting as the foundation for mindfulness meditation practice, with particular emphasis on the development of insight meditation, Vipassana. It is called the heart of Buddhist meditation. It contains the most comprehensive explanation of the immediate and straightforward way to achieve the Buddhist goal, which is Nibbana or Nirvana. It is, as the Buddha calls it, the direct path to the realization of Nibbana. It lays down a complete system in order to train the mind to see with tiny precision the real nature of the body, the feelings, the thoughts, and mental and material phenomena, and overcome the attachment to them. The Buddha begins this discourse with a statement: this is the direct path for the purification of beings, for the surmounting of sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of pain and grief, for the attainment of the true way, for the realization of Nibbana, namely the 4 applications of mindfulness. Why did the Buddha call it the direct path? It is to distinguish it from other meditations, such as the 10 Kasina meditations, the 4 Brahma Viharas, the 6 recollections, Buddhanusati, etc., and whatever any other kinds of meditations. This can lead to Nibbana, but not directly, and can lead to side tracks. However, Satipatthana leads directly to the final goal, Nibbana. So all other meditations, except Vipassana meditation, are called Samatha meditations. That means tranquility meditation, serenity meditations. The aim is to concentrate the mind to achieve a kind of deep concentration. But that is not enough to understand the nature of reality. So therefore now, these do not lead to Nibbana. Only the concentration they produce can be used for Vipassana practice. So therefore now, if one uses this kind of concentration for Samatha to analyze the body, the mind, the feelings, and so forth, and then he is able to see the true nature of them through Vipassana. Therefore, the purpose of the 4 applications of mindfulness is the purification of beings from defilements and so forth. As the Buddha says, for a long time, this mind has been defiled by lust, hatred, and delusion. Through the defilements of the mind, beings are defiled. With the cleansing of the mind, beings are purified. So now we're going to explain what are the 4 applications of mindfulness. It is the observation of the body. One has to apply mindfulness to understand the body, to observe the body, which is called Kaya Nupassana. and also observation of feelings, which is called Vedananupasana, and also observation of thoughts, which is called Chittanupasana, and observation of mental and material phenomena, which is called Dhammanupasana. These are the 4 applications of mindfulness. Therefore, there are 4 fields which we have to observe. These fields are not outside us. It is us we are going to observe. It is the body, our feelings, our thoughts, our mental and material phenomena. Therefore, and this observation has to be done with mindfulness and awareness. We don't watch something unreal. We try to observe something which is real, which is within our range of experience. So therefore, we don't try to imagine something or to visualize something. We have to see the nature of the body, feelings, thoughts, and mental and material phenomena. And this observation, therefore, it has to be done on the body, feelings, of thoughts, and mental and material phenomena. These are the 4 areas one has to work. And not only to observe them, but to see also the rise and fall of this phenomena, the impermanent nature of this phenomena. So therefore now, if you start with this practice, you have to observe what is more obvious to your experience. You have to observe things which are within the range of your experience. Therefore now, if the body is more obvious, you can start observing the body. If feelings are more obvious, you can start observing the feelings. If thoughts are more obvious, you can observe the thoughts. If mental and material phenomena are more obvious, you can start observing the thoughts. How to observe? The Buddha explains it in much detail how to start it. These are not abstract teachings, are very concrete, the way he explains it. So therefore now, one can see that these things one can detect, investigate them with one's own body and mind. So now, first we start with observation of the body, how to observe the body. And Buddha gives concrete called phenomena which occur in the body, which one can experience them directly. So then, and he says here, one abides observing the body as a body, urgent, fully aware, mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. Now the words he uses here to observe the body, it is to be urgent, means one should not be lethargic, one should be energetic and fully aware and mindful. One should not forget what one observes. So therefore, a person who is sleepy, he is lethargic, how he can observe a phenomenon is impossible. The person who is not aware of phenomenon, he is not mindful, he does not remember what he observes. How it is possible to start observing it? So therefore, these 3 factors, to be urgent, fully aware, and mindful, are very important to maintain one's attention for this observation. So then the Buddha starts first with observation of the body, with something very prominent which one can see it in our body. That is the breath. And he speaks about the mindfulness of breathing. So this can be practiced, this mindfulness of breathing can be practiced as serenity meditation. It's called samatha meditation, but can be practiced also as insight meditation. In this case, he wants to show us how to practice with insight meditation. So as serenity meditation, we taught it yesterday. That's why you keep one day to observe. Thursdays, we observe how to observe the body, as called to practice mindfulness of breathing in order to achieve concentration through samatha meditation. And today we are teaching how to practice mindfulness of breathing as insight meditation. So breathing is something very prominent because our body contracts and expands and contracts all the time through breathing. So, and one can take this as a very gross object in order to observe. So in order to do so, so you can see our body all the time breathes in, there is in-breath. You can mentally note in-breath. So, and then if you feel the out-breath, you mentally note out-breath. So this is how you can start, for example, how to do so. So now this in-breathing, out-breathing, in-breathing, you have to use some words. This mentally noting is very important because you can remind the mind what it has to observe. If you don't remind the mind what it has to observe, the mind is not going to do so. So therefore, you have to mentally note in-breath, out-breath, whenever you feel the in and out breath. Here, we don't use any other words. We use words which are direct, as to do direct with experience, whether direct relevant with experience. So this is the first step, the observational body. But then comes the other step, which is called insight meditation. So, and here it is, as we have already mentioned, the main principle in Vipassana, insight meditation, is observation of rise and fall of every material and mental phenomenon. Then one has to see the rise and fall in the body, to see the rise and fall in the breath, because our breath all the time has this kind of nature. What's called our breath rises and falls all the time. That is what one can experience, this impermanent nature of this breath. And then that's why the Buddha says in this Vipassana part, one abides observing in the body its nature of rising or its nature of falling or its nature of both rising and falling. This is the principle. He mentions it as called from the beginning of this discourse till then. For every object one has to observe. This is a constant repetition what the Buddha gives in this discourse, to observe this, not only in the body, but in any other phenomenon. So this is the Vipassana part. So see the nature of rising, falling, and or both rising and falling. So for those who understand Pali, this is the Pali text. So who the Buddha uses. Here, samudaya means rise, dhamma means the nature, anupasi means observing, kaya means the body, viharata means abides. Vaya means fall, dhamma means nature, samudaya vaya, dhamma means rise, fall, the nature of rise and fall. So now, in order to do this meditation, now you can start with observe the in-breath. So, and then you can see that with in-breath, there is an expansion of our body. This is the rise. So in the out-breath, you can see when the out-breath goes out, there is a contraction of our body. This is the fall. So in this way, you can see that our body, with in-breath, it rises, with out-breath, it falls. And this is kind of continuous rise and fall of each breath in out-breath. So this is called to observe this rise and fall in a continuous manner. So then you can observe the in-breath. If you observe the in-breath, you mentally note in-breath. And then that is the first part, to be aware of the in-breath. The second part, which is the Vipassana, it is to see the rise. So the time you feel the out-breath, that means the air going out of the body, this is the out-breath, and you mentally note out-breath. This is the fall. Therefore now, the first part is to note the object, what you're observing, in-breath, out-breath, and then the second part is the Vipassana part, to see the rise and fall. What is the nature of this breath? So that is Vipassana's part, to see the impermanent nature of this breath. So then you can observe this rise and fall in any part of the body. For example, you can see it in the tip of your nose, or you can see it on your chest, or you can see it in your belly, wherever it is prominent for you. So if you feel the in-breath somehow in the chest, on the belly, you can go to that spot mentally note in breath 2-3 times, and then you can see that you go to the next step to see what it happens with this in breath, that the body rises, expands. That is the rise. On the out breath, you feel the out breath, you mentally note out breath in whatever part of the body. And then when the out breath goes out of the body, this is the fall, you mentally note fall. So therefore now we have two kinds of observations. The first is to know the object, to observe the object we observe. And then the second is to see the nature of it. What is its nature? Is rise and fall. The second step, it is the Vipassana part. So therefore now you can observe this in-breath in the tip of the nose also. If you feel it in the tip of the nose, the in-breath, so you can mentally note in-breath. So therefore this rise. So and then if you feel it in the tip of the nose that the breath goes out, this is out breath, you mentally note out breath. Then afterwards you mentally note fall. So by each breath you can mentally note rise, by each out breath you mentally note fall. So therefore now these words are very important to direct the mind and to know the object and to see the nature of the object. So you can do it also in breath, you can see the rise and fall. In the in breath, for example, when the air strikes the nostrils, so that is a rise. When it stops touching the nostrils, that's the fall. The same in breath, in the same in breath, you can see rise and fall. So in the same way with out breath, when the earth strikes the nostrils while it goes out, that is a rise. And when it stops touching the nostrils, that is a fall. So therefore now you mentally note for the in-breath first, and then see rise and fall. That is in-breath, also rise and falls. And then for the out-breath, you mentally note out-breath and try to see that this out-breath also, it begins, that is a rise, and it stops, that is a fall. So therefore you can use observing this rise and fall in a gross manner or in a more detailed manner. You start with a gross manner. What is more grossly understood for you, and then you can see that this rise and fall actually happens in a more minute way. If you go like that, you can see that the same breath itself, this whole flow of the breath, it is more like small waves which also rise and fall. So then you can see this rise and fall in a very, very minute way. But you start first within your range of experience to see what is more gross for you. Afterwards, if you observe this again, you can see more details. You can see in a more minute way how this rise and fall happens in a very small moments also. So that is one way how to observe the body. Of course, the Buddha gives other ways also. For example, while walking, sitting, and so forth, one can also observe the body. Therefore, we're giving one example here, how if you walk, for example, and you lift your leg, that is lifting. If you move it forward, that is moving. If you place it down, that is placing it down. That is how you can note the whole movement of the body, of your leg. So, but then you can see also the nature of this movement. What is the nature of this movement? You can see as rise, you can see fall. Therefore, now every movement you do with your legs has the same nature, rise and fall. So even if you see in a more minute way, for example, if you lift your heel up, so and then lift your leg and move it forward, lower it, touch down and place it. So you can see also the rise and fall by each slight movements. So because even the heel here you can see, as called every small moment, there is a small rise and fall. So you can see in the more minute way. So, but as I told you, you can start with a gross way, as called the way you can experience with your range of experience. So slowly, slowly, if you observe it again and again, you can see that this rise and fall, it is in small, small moments also. So generally, as called, the Buddha explains how I can observe the body in different postures also. For example, while sitting and standing, walking, or lying down. So while sitting, one can observe while before sitting, this is the rise. While you sit, is the fall. Or even if you sit for some time, that's called, then you can get up. That is the fall of the whole sitting position. Here you can observe rise and fall in any posture you do. That this sitting position, you can't sit forever. There is a time limit how long you can sit. So while you sit, this is the rising. But after some time, if the body gets tired, this is the fall. So standing also like that, you can't stand forever like that. There is a beginning, there is an end for that. Therefore, you can see how in standing there is a rise and fall. Walking, there is also a time, our energy for walk, there is a limit. We can start walking, but then there is a limit. Therefore, now there is a rising. When you begin walking, there is a rise. When you stop walking, there is the fall. And lying the same. In the same posture, you can't lie there for a long time. There is a limit how you can lie. When you lie down, there is a rise. When you stop lying down, this is a fall. Therefore, in every position of the body, you can see, as called, this rise and fall. If you change your position, you can see the rise and fall. If you move your hand, you can see the rise and fall. So this can be extended in other parts of the body. For example, to see the elements in our body, solidity, liquidity, and heat element and wind element. So in these elements also, there is rise and fall. So then I'm not going to explain this part because now, especially for beginners, they are difficult to see how the heat in our body also rises and falls. The liquid element, the water in our body, how it rises and falls. For example, our blood all the time circulates. This circulation, its movement is all the time rise and falls. The solid element in our body also rise and falls. For example, the cells in our body all the time reproduce. Old cells that die, new cells they are produced. So therefore, nothing is static in our body. All the time moves. And then the wind element moves even more faster. So therefore now one can, if one wants to extend this rise and fall, one extend it also in the elements of the body. So in this way now, because one can observe this phenomena in many manners, so I just explained, for example, how to do it within your experience. Of course, there are many other ways one expand this meditation because the time is very limit here. I can't explain many other parts of the body you can, or movements of the body you can observe. So during this session, we are going to explain about the breath, which is something prominent and many people can follow up very easily. So, but by doing so, one can understand at least one aspect of the body. That is also how to start to see other aspects of it. So therefore now the Buddha says by doing so, as called mindfulness, that there is the body is simply established in oneself. By doing this practice, so it is that there is the body. What it means, we're going to explain this. And he says, to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and strong mindfulness. The meaning is, there is only the body or a bodily process. Whatever you observe is only a bodily process. There is not a being, not a person, not a woman, not a man, not the self, not what belongs to the self, not I, not mine, not somebody, not what belongs to somebody. This is for the sake of wider and wider, as called, and higher measure of knowledge and mindfulness. This is called Yatha Bhuta Jnana, namely knowledge of the phenomena as they really are and not as we imagine them to be. And then the Buddha says, and and abides independent, not clinging to anything in the world. So that means independent, not dependent on craving and speculations or wrong views. Not clinging to anything in the world means in the world one does not cling to anybody that this is myself or what belongs to myself. Because one see only bodily processes. For example, if you observe the breath, so this breath goes by itself. So we don't tell the breath come in, come out, and so forth. It goes by itself. This is kind of natural process. So, and this is how I understand there is a kind of mechanism how this body works, and one does not identify himself with this mechanism. One does not get attached to this mechanism, and his body becomes independent and not clinging to anybody as my and myself. So that is one way how to observe the body. We are going to explain about other aspects, how to observe other aspects of our existence. Another aspect is observation of feelings. So feelings are very common things what people experience, sensation in the body, or pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings in the mind. So the body or in the mind, we have different feelings arising. So this is how if people experience pain or pleasure, it is through these feelings. So it is good to observe these feelings, and the Buddha explains how to do so. He says, on abides observing feelings as feelings, attuned, fully aware, and mindful. Here again, if we observe, we have to be attuned, fully aware, and mindful. So there are different feelings arising in us, like for example, pleasant feeling, unpleasant or painful feeling, neutral feeling. So feeling connected with material stimuli and feeling connected with immaterial, spiritual, meditative stimuli. So whatever the feeling is, the Buddha says, when feeling a pleasant feeling, one understands, I feel a pleasant feeling. This is how to become aware of this feeling. So when feeling a painful feeling, one understands, I feel a painful feeling. When feeling a neither painful nor pleasant feeling, one understands, I feel a neither painful nor pleasant feeling. Now, this is the part of awareness, to be aware of what that feeling is. So of the object is a feeling. So we have to mentally note that this is the feeling. This is to become aware. But then the Buddha does not stop there, because only awareness is not enough to understand the nature of this feeling. Therefore, he explains the second part, which is insight meditation. Then he says, on abides observing feelings what? The nature of rising, or the nature of falling, or the nature of both rising and falling. Therefore, here we see also, the Buddha speaks about rise and fall, how to see the rise and fall, the impermanent nature of these feelings. There is no feeling in us which can last for long. Whatever happy feeling we have, we can't take it, put it in a bottle, seal it, and tell, may this feeling never go away from me. That is impossible. Therefore, all these feelings have the nature of rise and fall. This is how one should see the fleeting feeling nature of these feelings, and not to be attached or repulsed by these feelings. So, but because of these feelings, some of these feelings, they stay longer. For example, they rise and fall, but some feelings, they appear to the meditator's mind that there is a kind of duration. They stay long. After they rise, they don't go away very fast. There is a period of time when they last, as called, and then only they fall. In this way, now the Buddha speaks about the feeling. There is another stage, another phase, which one should observe. And he says, here, one knows feelings as they arise, as they stay, and as they disappear. So therefore now here he says that this feeling, because between rise and disappearance, there is a period which is called staying. So therefore now this is why the meditator can see also there is certain feelings, they rise, stay for some time and fall. In that case, now one has to observe if a feeling stays, one can mentally, the meditator can mentally tell staying. So therefore now, in this way, we have, for example, pleasant feeling. So if that pleasant feeling appears in one's mind, one should mentally note pleasant feeling, and then one see the rise, staying, and fall of it. So because some pleasant feelings also do not fall immediately. They stay for some time and only then they fall. If one sees the rise of them, one should mentally note rise. If one stays the staying of them, one should mentally note staying. If one seeing the fall of them, one should mentally note fall. And then there is pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, or painful feeling. This also has the same nature, rise, staying, and fall. One should mentally note unpleasant feeling and then go to see the nature of it, how this also rises, stays, and falls. If it stays, one should continue telling staying, till there is a moment when that feeling falls, and then I can say fall. There is a neutral feeling, which is neither pleasant or unpleasant. This also is the same nature, rising, staying, and fall. So therefore, the meditator can mentally note neutral feeling, so which is a kind of peaceful feeling, and then go to see the nature of that feeling, how it also rises, stays, and falls. So, and by doing so, the Buddha says, mindfulness that there is the feeling is simply established in oneself to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and strong mindfulness. The meaning here is also that there is only the feeling or a feeling process, not a being, not a person, not a woman, not a man, not the self, not what belongs to a self, not I, not mine, not somebody, not what belongs to somebody. For the sake of a wider and wider and higher measure of knowledge and mindfulness. This is again called Yatha Bhutanyana, knowledge of the phenomena as they really are and not as we imagine them to be. And then the Buddha says, and on abides independent, not clinging to anything in the world. So that means independent, not depending on craving for feelings, on speculations about feelings, about wrong views about feelings. Not clinging to anything in the world. In the world, one does not cling to any feeling that this is myself or what belongs to myself. So this is one aspect of our existence, because we experience so many feelings. We identify ourselves with these feelings. We cling to these feelings. We have speculations, craving, and wrong views sometimes about this feeling. But the time we see the impermanent nature, then all this kind of craving for them, speculation about them disappears. One can see that this feeling just a feeling processes. There is not a person there. And there is just a mechanism how these feelings arise. So, and one does not identify oneself with these feelings. So another aspect of our existence is thoughts. That's why the Buddha tells how to observe our thoughts. For example, we have anger, desire, delusion, and so forth, and many other thoughts who come in our mind. And this is the Buddha explains how to observe these thoughts also concretely, not in an abstract way, only thoughts. Because if we tell thoughts, it's very abstract. But if we identify what kind of thought this is, then we become more concrete and are able to analyze our thoughts. Therefore, the Buddha says, here again, one abides observing the thoughts as thoughts, urgent, fully aware, and mindful. So here again, one should be urgent, fully aware, and mindful, and one will start observing them. So then he says, one understands a thought with lust or desire as a thought with lust or desire. So therefore, this desire can appear in our mind anytime. So because of, if we're going to see the nature of this desire, we have first to identify it in ourselves. And then also, that is one aspect. But there is another aspect also. One understands a thought without lust or desire as a thought without lust or desire. Now, for example, the time we have desire this moment, after we lose interest, there is a thought which is called thought without lust, without desire. And then there is another aspect which is said, one understands a thought with hate or anger as a thought with hate or anger. So that is something very common which appears in our mind, whether we want it or not. There are many moments which anger or hate arise in our mind and overpowers us. So by observing it, one understands the nature of it. So therefore, but first one has to identify it, to become aware of it. That is the first step. And then there is another aspect which the Buddha says, one understands a thought without hate or anger as a thought without hate or anger. So therefore, if our anger goes away, so there is a thought most peaceful, more calm, which is called a thought without anger or hate. So another aspect is that the Buddha says, one understands a thought with delusion as a thought with delusion. Delusion is also very common in our mind. And delusion means in this context, lack of knowledge. If we, for example, have a doubt regarding a matter, so we are in a state of delusion because it is like confusion of the mind. Because we don't know the answer, where there is uncertainty in our mind. If we worry about something, that is a kind of delusion because we don't know how to solve a problem, that is a time of the mind becomes confused. Delusion is there. If we fantasize, if we daydream, that is also a kind of delusion. Therefore, all these aspects of mind are called delusion, confused mind. And there are states of mind which also can be called delusion. There is no anger there is no desire. It is indecisiveness, uncertainty, doubt about this, or sometimes fantasies and daydreams which come in our mind. All this can called delusion. That's called thought with delusion. One should become aware of it. And so that is the first step. So, and then the Buddha says one understands a thought without delusion as a thought without delusion. If, for example, the delusion goes away, there is a kind of thought which is called no delusion. When we have, for example, knowledge. If we have knowledge what to do, then the delusion disappears. Then we have the thought without delusion. So these are certain aspects of our mind. The first step is we have already mentioned is to become aware what is in our mind. So if these thoughts are prominent, because some people, they can't observe the thoughts. So because the breath is more prominent, they like more the breath, that is more obvious for them. They can continue observing the breath. Some people, again, they can't understand the thoughts because a lot of feelings arise in the body. They have certain sensation in the body, and it's easy for them to observe the sensation. They can go ahead and observe the sensations. But some people, they can't observe either the breath nor the feelings because many thoughts come in the mind. They have many ideas coming in the mind and so forth. The mind becomes so occupied with thoughts. So that is the time for them to turn their attention to the thoughts and observe the thoughts. So therefore, this kind of practice, it is what is more obvious within your range of experience. With that, you start. Now let's explain now how to mentally note about these thoughts for the desire, anger, or delusion. So that is the first part, as called to be aware of them. But then the Buddha does not stop there. Then he says us to see the nature of these feelings, of these thoughts. That is the Vipassana part, which is called insight meditation. Here he says, one abides observing in the thoughts the nature of rising, or the nature of falling, or the nature of both rising and falling. Here again, there is rise and fall of these thoughts. So because also some of these thoughts, they stay for some time, one can also observe the period of the staying. So that is, therefore now, if you detect in yourself a thought with lust or desire, so you mentally note thought with lust and desire, and then see the rise, staying, and fall of that. So if you can see the rise, you can mentally note rise. If you can see the staying, you can mentally note staying. As long as that thought stays, you can continue telling staying. when you see that thought fall, then you can tell fall. So therefore now we have the first part, which is the awareness part of what you observe. And the second part is to see the nature of this object, which is rise, staying, and fall. So the same way also with thought without desire, lust or desire. So if this lust and desire falls and goes away, it does not appear. So then there's a thought without lust or desire that also rises, stays, and falls. One has to see that aspect also of rise and staying and fall. So now in thought with desire, one can see that there is a tension in the mind. If there is desire, there is tension. But if that desire goes away, there is a peaceful thought which comes without lust or desire. That is more peaceful, more serene. But even so, one has to see that even this serene thought, this peaceful thought, this also rises, stays, and falls. So therefore, one either clings to the lust of desire, or it's called this thought with desire, neither to the thought without desire. And then if there is thought with anger, one should mentally note thought with anger and see the rise, staying, and fall of it. And there is thought without anger, one see rise, staying, and fall of it. And there is thought with delusion, one again should see the rise, staying, and fall of it. And thought without delusion, one again should see the rise, staying, and fall of it. So as before, now all these thoughts have the same nature. Therefore, there are two aspects, as I told you. Identify what are the object you observe, so and then see the nature of it. And then the Buddha says, mindfulness that there is the thought is simply established in oneself. So to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and strong mindfulness. The meaning is there is only the thought or a thought process, not a being, not a person, not a woman, not a man, not a self, not what belongs to a self, not I, not mine, not somebody, not what belongs to somebody. For the sake of a wide and higher measure of knowledge and mindfulness. This is called again Yatha Bhuta Jnana, knowledge of the phenomena as they really are and not as we imagine them to be. And then the Buddha says again, on abides, independent, not clinging to anything in the world. The meaning is independent, not depending on craving for thoughts and speculation about thoughts and wrong views about thoughts. Not clinging to anything in the world means in the world one does not cling to any thought that this is myself or what belongs to myself. So now, of course, we have explained about the bodily processes, the feeling process and thought processes, but the Buddha also is giving us to see other aspects of our existence, which are called mental and material phenomena. So how, for example, these thoughts arise, how these feelings arise. So that is, we can see how material phenomena play a role for our moods, for our feelings, for our thoughts. And mental phenomena also play another role for our feelings, for our thoughts, and so forth, dispositions. So therefore now, if these mental and material phenomena become prominent to the meditator's mind, one can start observing them also. So, and we're going to explain how to do so. Here the Buddha, for example, says, one abides observing mental and material phenomena as mental and material phenomena, attent, fully aware, and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. So I will give you an example. The Buddha explains many aspects how to do so. I will give you just a simple example how it's called on observe phenomena which are within one's range of experience. Where, for example, the sense organs, like the eye. And we have also sense objects, which are visual objects. So because of visual objects, we have we have different sensations, feelings, thoughts, if we see visual object regarding the color, the shape, so many thoughts arise in our mind. So, and feelings also arise in our mind. If the colors are pleasant, the shapes are pleasant, so pleasant feelings come in our mind, and the thoughts start multiplying regarding this object. If the colors or the shapes are ugly and so forth, we have unpleasant feelings in our mind. And thoughts also sometimes which regarding this object are not pleasant also. So therefore now visual object play a big role for our moods, for our disposition. You get it's called affected by them. Even without knowing it, we get affected by them. So they can change our moods from sometimes from bad to worse, sometimes from pleasant to more pleasant. So regarding this visual object, one should be aware and see how it's called this play a big role in our experience. Another thing it is the ear. We have the sense organ, the ear, and also sounds. Sounds also play a big role for our moods and dispositions. So one can start also observing the sounds, how much role they can affect our moods. They can influence us so much. So if one gets it's called trapped in them, it's very easily to go from mood to mood without knowing how this happens. So we have also the nose and smells. Smells also play a big role for our moods and dispositions. So if they are pleasant smells, we will feel happy. If unpleasant smells, we feel unhappy. So, and tongue also plays big roles because we have tests and so forth. So if they are pleasant tests, we feel happy. If they are unpleasant, we feel unhappy. Therefore, this happiness and unhappiness depends on these sense objects. So they play a big role, who you perceive them. So, and then we have the body and tangible object, what we touch, that also, if they are pleasant, unpleasant object we touch, that also plays a big role for our moods and dispositions. And then we have the mind and ideas. So these ideas we have also can influence our moods. So therefore, one should become aware of them. I will just give you some gross examples. Now, for example, if you hear a sound while meditating, so then you can mentally note sound, and see the nature of the sound. First is to detect, if the mind goes to the sound, for example, you can mentally note sound, and then see the nature of the sound, how this sound also rises, stays, and then after some time it falls. So therefore, one should practice also Vipassana meditation, and this is how to do so. So and the Buddha says about insight meditation, one abides observing in the mental and material phenomena, the nature of rising or the nature of falling or the nature of both rising and falling. Here again, he explains about how to observe this rise and fall. So, and then mindfulness that there are mental and material phenomena is simply established in oneself to the extent necessary for bare knowledge and strong mindfulness. The meaning is there are only mental and material phenomena, not a being, not a person, not a woman, not a man, not a self or what belongs to a self, not I, not mine, not somebody, not what belongs to somebody. For the sake of a wide and higher measure of knowledge and mindfulness, this again is called Yatha Bhutanyana, knowledge of the phenomena as they really are and not as we imagine them to be. And then the Buddha says, and one abides not clinging to anything in the world. The meaning is independent, not dependent on craving for this sense object or in speculation about sense object, about wrong views about sense objects. Not clinging to anything in the world. One does not cling to any mental and material phenomena that these are myself or what belongs to myself. So now, although there are so many objects the meditator has to observe, one should not feel uncomfortable because all these objects have a common characteristic, the rise and fall. Whether you observe your breath or you observe your feelings, you observe your thoughts or any mental and material phenomena, you actually observe one thing. You observe the rise and fall of them. So therefore, you don't get lost. As called, whatever object you see may be different, may have different characteristics. Now, the breath is different characteristics. The thought have different characteristics. The feelings have different characteristics and so forth, but they have a common characteristic, a universal characteristic, that is the nature of rise and fall. That is how the meditator can get a samadhi. This samadhi is called Vipassana samadhi, concentration by insight meditation. Because this rise and fall is constant. Constant. By seeing rise and fall again and again, the mind can see it repeatedly in front of one's eye, in front of one's experience. That is where the mind gets concentrated. Now, regarding this Vipassana samadhi, the Buddha gives a discourse and explains about it. So, and he asks, what is the development of concentration, samadhi bhavana, that leads to mindfulness and awareness, sati sampajanya? So he says, he gives some examples. Here, one knows feelings as they arise, as they stay, and as they disappear. Here we have them. You can see how it's called. Because the time you see the rise, stay, and disappearance of feelings, that is constant. That is something, it gets repeated again and again. Maybe it is a pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, or neutral feeling. But they have something, a common characteristic. That all these feelings have the same nature, to rise, stay for some time, and disappear. That is what the samadhi rises. It's called the samadhi appears. Because one does not get lost. This is constant. This is repeated again and again. So here what the Buddha says, to see the rise, staying, and fall of these feelings. Again, he gives another example. One knows perceptions as they arise, as they stay, and as they disappear. Again, here one sees the rise and staying of the fall. Here it is called samadhi appears, the concentration. Again, he says one knows thoughts as they arise, as they stay, and as disappear. Here again, this is what the meditator can see, rise, staying, and fall. And his samadhi is where it builds up by seeing this phenomenon of rise and fall again and again, because that is repeated. That does not change. That's called, there's something constant which the meditator can observe. That's why his mind gets his Vipassana samadhi. So now to see this rise and fall, the Buddha praised it many times, not only in Satipatthana Sutta, but in the other suttas. I will give you an example. For example, in Dhammapada, which is a very common book, he says, even though one should live 100 years without comprehending how all things rise and fall, yet better indeed is a single day's life of one who comprehends how all things rise and fall. And the last words of the Buddha were, all phenomena have the nature of fall. Try to understand this with diligence. So therefore now, this teaching of rise and fall, it appears in many discourses of the Buddha. So it is very, very crucial for us to understand how we cling, identify with impermanent phenomena, and then we suffer. So, and those who attain the stream entry, which is called Sotapannahood, that means the first stage of enlightenment. So they understand whatever has the nature to rise, all that has the nature to cease, the fall. Now this sentence, I put it here in the Pali form. So it appears in many suttas, especially for them who attain Sotapannahood. That means attain the stream entry, the first stage of enlightenment. So this is what they understand. So, and this understanding is called the eye of Dhamma. This is called Dhamma Chakku. That is the eye of true nature of all phenomena. This Dhamma, it is what? Dhamma, it is the Dhamma, this nature. What is the nature? Nature of rise and fall and cease. So that is Dhamma. That is Dhamma in this context, to see the Samudaya Dhamma or Nirodha Dhamma. This is the Dhamma Chakku, the eye of, as called, of the true nature of all phenomena. And so therefore, a Sotapanna, having seen this truth through the observance of rise and fall, a Sotapanna has severed the bond of self-identity view or personality view, Sakaya Ditti, and skeptical doubt, Vicikicca, and now possesses the intellect which is excellent and liberating, leading to the complete cessation of existential suffering. So in summary, what we have to do, we have the observation with mindfulness awareness. So observation means we don't try to change the phenomena. We just observe them. We don't try to manipulate them. We just leave all these phenomena, either in the body, the mind, the feelings, and so forth, be as they are. Try to understand the nature of them. We don't try to manipulate them. That is observation. So, and this observation has two aspects with mindfulness and awareness. First aspect is knowing the object of observation. So you have to mentally note the object of observation, which is within your range of experience. For example, if you experience the breath, you mentally note the breath. If you experience the feelings, you mentally note the feeling. If you experience the thoughts, you mentally note the thoughts. That is the first aspect. But the second aspect is the Vipassana. We don't stop there just to know the object, to be aware of it. No, to see its nature, rise and fall. So, and then we have, what are the objects, for example, of observation? We have the body. So, and okay, one part is to know the body, for example, the breath. But the second part, it is to see its nature of rise and fall. And then we have the feelings, which is the object of observation. That is one part. But the second part is to see its nature rise and fall. Then we have the thoughts, which is one part, to know it, to be aware of it. But then one is to see the second part, which is a rise and fall. And then they have mental and material phenomena. That is only the knowing of the object. And then you have to know the second part, which is its rise, the rise and fall of mental phenomena. So in this way, we have observation of the body, feelings, thoughts, and mental phenomena. And the Vipassana part, it is to see the rise and fall of this phenomena. So therefore now we have to start and observe what is more obvious to your experience. If it is the body, for example, with the breath is more obvious, we can start observing the body. So if the feelings are more prominent, you can start observing the feelings. If the thoughts are more prominent, you can start observing the thoughts. If the mental and material phenomena are more obvious, you can start mental and material phenomena. So, but you can change. For example, if while you observe the body, so while you observe the body, for example, then feelings appear. You can start observing the feelings because these become more prominent. For example, if pain arises somehow in the body and the mind becomes occupied with the pain, one can go, you can go and observe the feelings and see the nature of things. And then can go back to the body whenever these feelings disappear. If, for example, the thoughts become more prominent while observing the feelings of the body, so, and the mind becomes occupied with the thoughts, you can go and observe the thoughts. So when thoughts disappear, as called go away, you can go back to the feelings or to the body. So in the same way, you can change according to what is more obvious to your experience. So therefore, in this, but what you do it is we actually observe one thing because you see the rise and fall in all these phenomena. So it is nothing strange if you change the object because, as I told you, they have a common characteristic and it is good to understand this common characteristic of this phenomenon. Because not only the body rises and falls, the feelings do the same, thoughts do the same, and also mental phenomena and material phenomena do the same. So now with the in-breath, for example, if you inhale the in-breath, you can mentally note in-breath. And for the out-breath, you mentally note out-breath. So, and then you can see the rise and fall of them. First part is to mentally identify what you're observing, in breath, out breath, and then the second part is to see the rise and fall of them. So you can observe in the tip of your nose also, in breath, mental note, in breath, rise, the mental note, rise. Then out breath, which is the fall, you mental note, fall. So, and then you can observe in the in breath itself, rise and fall, or out breath itself, rise and fall. So you can see the in breath and out breath more minutely. So observation with feelings, the same. Pleasant, we have pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, and neutral feeling. That is the most common thing. You can see the rise and fall of them. So whatever the feeling is, they have a common characteristic, rise and fall. Observation of thoughts is the same. You can see the rise and fall of them. So what if anger, it does not stay forever, also rise and falls. Desire does not stay forever, it also rise and falls. Delusion, all the same, does not stay forever, it rise and falls. So in the mental and material phenomena, you can at least, I gave you a small model how you can understand this sense object, especially which, for example, sound and smells and taste or other visual object we encounter, you can see them, how they also rise and fall. So especially with visual object, if you close your eyes and you see pictures in your mind, so you can mentally note them like image or visual object. So, and then see how this stays and also falls. So because some people, they have images coming in the mind. Some visions come in the mind. So they get absorbed in this vision, in this image. So in that case, now they can't understand that they are thinking, the thought processes. They can see only the picture or the image in front of the mind. So then they can take this as an object and see how this stays, and then after some time, see how also dissolves and falls. So to see the impermanent nature of this image. The sound is the same, smell is the same, taste, tangible, and so forth. You have to mentally note the object. If there's a smell, a taste, and so forth, you mentally note it, or if there's sound, you mentally note it, and see the rise and fall of them. Therefore, all these phenomena has the same nature, rise and fall. So I'm going to conclude my talk explanation regarding this practice. So those who have already seen this PowerPoint presentation, of course, they might know it. So it is good for them to remember it. We spend a little more time for them to also remember some points. That's why I made a small summary, how to observe this phenomena. So therefore now, as I told you, we're going to practice, and you can prepare the place you are going to meditate. So then, and it's not difficult, just sit and observe what is more prominent, what is more obvious within your range of experience. I will suggest you start with a breath. So, and start seeing it from a different aspect. If you have observed the breath, just breathe in breath, out breath, in breath, out breath. Now you go and see it from another aspect. See the nature of this breath, how it rises and falls. So if you have ever observed your thoughts, only thoughts or thoughts, now you can see also how these thoughts rise and fall. If you ever observed your feelings, only feeling, now you can also observe the nature of rise and fall. So in this way, you can name what you're observing, you mentally note what you're observing, and then mentally note the nature of this object, which is rise and fall. So regarding thoughts, if you can't identify these thoughts, whether it's desire or anger or delusion and so forth, you just grossly say thought, or thoughts in the plural, and then see how these thoughts rise, stay, and fall. If you can't see the rise, you can see the staying. You may still staying as long these thoughts stay. And then if you see the falling, you can see tell fall. So those days we used to spend about 5-10 minutes or a little bit more for question and answer before starting practice. But because many people, they are coming also, they are eager to practice, it becomes very late for them. So question and answers will be at the end of this, of the practice. So, and then whatever question you have, as I told you, you can go in the Zoom screen and with your arrow or with your finger, you can see small icons like a microphone. You can see the chat, and you can see also at the end, there is a small icon which says reactions. You can lift your hand like that. Is a palm there. You lift the hand there, and we can understand, yeah, you want to ask something. Another way it is to write something in the chat box, or you can raise your hand if you have no other option. So you can also mention how long you want to meditate for the day. So we do so because some people becomes very late for them. They have a limited time to meditate, and that's why you want to ask the opinion.
I see a hand raised, but we will start the meditation now, and all questions will be held for later on.
No, if it is something urgent, you can allow somebody to ask if there is something.
Okay, I don't know. I have unmuted Cassia, but you have to press your button, Cassia, in order to unmute yourself now.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I would like to ask if in everyday meditation, we should start with Vipassana, which you learned us yesterday, before Vipassana meditation.
Yes.
Yes?
No, I understand what you're telling, but you can, that is the question. If you can start with Anapanasati or shall we start with Vipassana? That is the question, no?
Yes. It's a question, is it somehow connected with two meditations?
Connection is that actually with the first meditation, Anapanasati, we try to concentrate on a single object, on the breath. We don't try to analyze it. And what we get from it is concentration. This concentration, we can use it to analyze under mental material phenomena. So therefore, because if the mind is confused, scattered, and fragmented, it is difficult to analyze things, to practice Vipassana. So therefore, and Samatha meditation, is concentration of the mind, helps to unify the mind, to bring oneness of the mind. And that gives the power one to concentrate upon whatever one wants to study, to contemplate, to observe, is so easy. So therefore now, that is the connection that the first Samatha meditation, Anapanasati, it gives us the ability to unify the mind, to bring it together, so and to attain oneness, concentration. And this concentration, it is very easy to use it to analyze things, to concentrate about an object and analyze it in a proper way. That is the connection. Otherwise, the both practices are different, because the first is not analytic, while the second is more analytic. Vipassana is more analytic. We don't try only to enjoy the object, to experience the object. We try to see its nature also. What is its nature? What is the object? How it behaves?
Okay. Thank you. I understand.
So then you can use, actually in your daily practice, you can, for example, practice Anapanasati in the morning. And then whenever you have other time, in the evening, for example, you can practice Vipassana. So, or sometimes some meditators, they can combine both. It depends on the state of the mind. If they feel the mind agitated a little bit, they practice Anapanasati, they can calm down the mind. After maybe 10, 15 minutes or half an hour, the mind becomes calm and they can start Vipassana.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So now we're going to start meditating. Now, most of the people voted 30 minutes. About 46% of the people voted for 30 minutes. But there are others who voted for 40 minutes, 10%, 45 minutes, 23%, and 21%, 60 minutes. So in order to be not to be unfair for them, so we're going to put a time for 35 minutes. So, and these people also will not find it unfair that we put only 30 minutes. So we'll fix the time for today, as yesterday also was about 35 minutes, to satisfy both parties. So then, because the time already passed, some people already prepared the cushions, the yoga mats to meditate. So we can't spend more time. So I just want to tell you, you can prepare your seat, put your spine erect, and draw all attention to yourself, and try to see what is more prominent. I will just suggest you can start with the breath. You don't see only the breath, as I told you, just see all the other aspect of the breath, how it rises and falls, and use these words, as I told you, to draw the attention to the object you observe. If feelings arise in the body, you can switch to the feelings. If thoughts arise are very prominent in your mind, then you can switch to the thoughts. If some thoughts are not clear, you just ignore them. You can go back to the breath. Now, the breath is all the times recurring. It does not stop anyhow. Thoughts sometimes come, do not come. Feelings sometimes come, they don't come. But the breath is ever present. So whenever there is no object for you to observe, return back to the breath. So that is simple. And as I told you, the principle here is to give emphasis to the rise and fall of the object. Not only what is the object in front of you, but also to give emphasis on the rise and fall of it. All right, you are going to meditate. After the meditation, 35 minutes, we are going to reply to the questions which people have already prepared. Somebody asked, Rupal asked, can you repeat the process, please? So then, okay, now I tell you, you can go to the breath, observe the breath and see mental note, in breath, out breath. So, and then see the rise and fall of the breath. And if there are feelings prominent, they become more prominent, you can go to switch to the feelings and see, name the feeling, whether it's pleasant feeling or unpleasant feeling or neutral feeling, name it and observe it, how it rises and falls. And also something similar you can do with the thoughts. If the thoughts, you can't understand whether it's thought with desire and so forth, with anger, you just tell them grossly. Thoughts with just thoughts, and see the nature of rise and fall. Give emphasis on the rise and fall. If there are some thoughts very persistent, then you can see what kind of thought this is, whether it's with desire, with anger or delusion, and go observing it. So, and see the rise and fall. So that is in brief. We're going to start, and the bell is going to ring. Those who have the volume very high in the devices, please reduce the volume because the bell may annoy you. So, and after 35 minutes, any question you have, you can raise your hand and ask.
Harris raised the hand.
Yes. Hello, everybody. I would just like to ask whether anyone else was finding tension arriving in the body as a result of trying to decipher whether to focus on a thought, a feeling, or the breath. I was finding some tension arising from consciously making that decision. I wondered whether over time that urgency that I was feeling to sort of focus on one thing or the other would actually demise over time with practice.
It can be because, but it can be also the other way around, because some people, if they think different things and their mind is scattered all over in other places, they are not become aware of the sensations which arise in the mind. But once you draw your attention closer to the body, then you start realizing there are some sensations there. So, and that can be also the reason. Can be also because you become undecided, you do not know how to practice, maybe the first time, and so forth, how to start. It can be also because of that. But already explained, you just start with the breath. So go to the breath. Whatever you try to observe the breath. So other objects which are not obvious to you, you just ignore them. So even thoughts which are very swift coming and going, so don't run after them because you are not able to observe them. Go to an object which is very obvious, very gross. For example, the breath is something which one observe it again and again. And other feelings which arise in the body, you just observe them whenever they are so prominent, so the mind becomes so much occupied with them, then you can go and observe them for a certain period. Whenever this feeling disappears, you get back to the breath. So it is nothing difficult in that, but you have to choose an object which is more prominent. And I will also suggest you start with the breath because that is constant. It is repeated again and again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So there are several questions in the chat box. So I'm going to reply to them.
Bante Rupal wanted to ask something.
Oh, yes, sorry. Yes, all right.
Yeah, Bante, I was able to concentrate on my thoughts.
Just a moment, because the connection is not a good one.
Okay, is it okay now?
You can repeat, yes, you can try, go closer to the microphone and repeat.
Yeah, so I'll switch off my video. Yeah, so I was able to concentrate on breathing and then switching to thoughts and emotions. But I started feeling cold and there was cramp in my legs. So it was kind of distracting that I had to get distracted and move my legs. So is it possible? There was just a rise and there wasn't a fall because pain continued to come. And then I had to move my leg and I was like, it was quite distracting. So is it possible to attain rise and fall without moving legs or feeling cold or hot? Or yeah, that's the question.
Yes, actually, you can observe everything here. As I told you, even movements of the body, one can observe how also they change the rise and fall. Every single moment, you can observe this rise and fall. It's everywhere. Whatever we do, whether with our thoughts, our body, on feelings, you can observe it everywhere. Even if you lift your finger and put it down, that is also rise and fall. If you move your leg, you can observe how it rises. The starting, when you start moving it, that is the rise. When you stop moving it, that is the end, that is the fall. So therefore now, even if you move your leg, no problem, you can observe this rise and fall. So you don't need to close the eyes to see it. It is everywhere there. Even if you walk, you can see the rise and fall. So, and this rise and fall is something constant. You can see it everywhere. So then don't be don't think that, oh, I missed the practice. No, no. So because you move the legs, you miss the practice. You can be in the practice if you see this rise and fall even while you move your legs, or if it is, you feel cold, you can see the temperature and so forth in your body, how it changes, how it rises, cold, cold. You can observe cold, 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 and see how it stays, and it falls. So any external stimuli or internal stimuli, one can get it as an object to observe. But of course, for beginners, it's difficult, because the difficulty is that to switch from object to object, they find it difficult. So they are not familiar with that. And that is, little training is needed. Therefore, but I give you a perspective how there is no limit in this meditation where I can stop, tell, no, I can't observe rise and fall in this object. You can, everywhere. There is not a limit.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bante, it's another Rupa Rebello wants to ask something. That we have two.
Maybe
yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Shreyas. Actually, I joined link from Rupal's end. That's why my name is also Rupal. So, Bhante, I want to ask you one thing. While I was meditating, I was completely heavy, and I wasn't, at one point, I wasn't able to like move my hand because I had some sensation over my, like, mosquito bite me, and I wasn't able to even remove that. So, and I was completely heavy. So, and it was kind of, after one point, my body was, I wasn't feeling my body. So is it fine? I was kind of freaked out.
So now the question is, can you repeat your question?
While I was meditating, I was meditating on breathing, and I wasn't able to move because some insect bit me in middle of meditation. I sensed it, but my body was so heavy, I wasn't able to move.
So that means you feel the weight of your body, you feel some unpleasant sensation in the body. That is the meaning, no?
Yeah, I was completely heavy.
You was completely?
I was heavy. I was feeling heavy.
Right. So, okay, never mind now, because I told you, you just observe what is more prominent. You feel the heaviness of the body. You usually now, this kind of sensations, we use the word unpleasant sensation, because some people, they feel heavy, some feel itchy, sometimes numbness, sometimes this and this. You know, not to be lost in this kind of words, we just call them unpleasant sensation, unpleasant feeling. So you can call it unpleasant feeling because you perceive it as unpleasant. In whatever part of the body, you can go to that part of the body and tell us called unpleasant feeling 2-3 times, and then see how this unpleasant feeling stays, and you repeat the word staying. As long as this unpleasant feeling stays, this heaviness stays, you can repeat it's called unpleasant feeling and so forth. When it falls, you just tell fall. So then you can see that this kind of this heavy feeling, which appears like so gross, ultimately breaks down. You can see the dissolution of this feeling, because this feeling, if you see it from afar, it looks like like a rock. But if you go closer and look at it, it's like it is fragments. You can see the fragments of this feeling. Hello?
Okay, thank you so much for answering.
You're welcome.
Bante, we have Julie wanted to ask something. She raised the hand.
Yes, please.
Yes, hi. Am I on audio? Can you hear me?
Yes. Well.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I don't want to take up too much time, and I'm afraid that my question might just do that, but I will just go with it. I've been practicing Vipassana meditation for many years now. I learned with S.N. Goenka, who you probably know, of course. And it's Vipassana meditation, and at the same time, the technique is a bit different, how we learn. And I find that I get stuck in the technique that I've learned before. I want to move on, but I find that the technique is sort of getting in the way, So with the Vipassana that Goenka-ji teaches, we really only work on body sensations, and we scan the body, and we stay in the body and in the sensations. And so when thoughts arise, we basically ignore them. As soon as we are aware of the fact that we have thoughts, we ignore them, and then we go back to the body and we just keep on going. And it's less observing the individual sensations as it is observing that we have a sensation rather than the rising and the falling of the sensation. So I find that when I'm trying to practice, with what you have been teaching, is that number one, when I do have a thought, for example, that comes up, it's sort of almost like automatic pilot that I just, as soon as I recognize and I'm aware that there's a thought, instead of saying, well, observe the thought, which is what I want to do, which is why I'm here, I'm going to just immediately go back to my breathing, for example, because that's what I've been taught for so many years. Yeah. So I'm stuck on this, and at the same time, it's as I said, it's like opening the drawer, Pandora's box, because it leads me to so many other things that make me stumble, actually. The idea of thought and emotion, which are not necessarily the same thing. I mean, I can have thoughts that are not necessarily linked to a particular emotion. A memory, for example, it's just a memory, a neutral memory, or a plan, for example, or a bodily sensation, for example. This is what happened just now, is that I had a moment when I felt very, very hot, so the heat came. Well, I know, because I've been meditating for so long, that heat, at least for me, is associated with anger. So I wasn't feeling anger, I was feeling heat. And I was automatically bringing it, well, anger, anger, anger. But so I'm getting really mixed up.
So, yes, you see now, the Buddha has spoken about how to observe the feelings, but he has not limited himself in that. Therefore, he spoke about 4 applications of mindfulness. One application is the feelings, but it's not the only one, because we don't all have feelings, and these feelings do not arise accidentally by themselves. Their thoughts can produce feelings. Feelings can produce thoughts. So even the heat, outside heat, can produce feelings. Internal heat can produce feelings. Now they are material properties. Heat is a material property. It produces calories. This is nothing to do with feeling. While feeling is a mental phenomenon, is a mental factor, we call it. So because we have consciousness, that's why we can feel. Material things, they don't have consciousness, they can't feel, but they can produce consciousness in us, can produce feelings in us. So if we come in contact with them. So therefore now we must distinguish between material phenomena and mental phenomena, like feeling, thoughts, and so forth. So in this way, the Buddha explains it very clearly how some people and so forth, if they have feelings, they can concentrate on the feelings, because that is what is more prominent to them. But they have to do it probably, not just to tell feeling, and stop there. No, just see what happens with this feeling. Give emphasis on the in its nature. What is nature of this feeling? To see rise and fall. So which many teachers or many students don't miss this. They don't see this part. And what they expect from the feelings, for the feelings to go. If they don't go, they get angry. That is it. So if the pleasant feeling comes, oh, how nice my meditation, they enjoyed it. Actually, what you do in this whole time, you become averse to God's unpleasant feeling and enjoy unpleasant feelings. But you can't see that both have the same nature. They just rise and fall. They're just impermanent. So if you see that, you don't get averse to unpleasant feeling. How much painful it is, you just see it is just phenomenon which stays, and after it falls. If pleasant feeling comes, you don't get attracted to it. You don't wish may it last longer. You don't crave for it. You see that is also impermanent. It rises and falls. That is why actually this part is emphasized by the Buddha, to be independent, not to depend on these feelings. Because we depend on something impermanent. And that's why you get disappointed. Sometimes meditation goes well, oh, how nice. And we expect this nice meditation will repeat it also tomorrow. If it does not get repeated, we get depressed. And this is how the nature. But one who practices, see rise and fall, he doesn't get depressed. Because you see, that is just, they come and go according to conditions and they disappear because of conditions. So here some kind of equanimity, upekkha. Goenka also speaks about the upekkha, equanimity. But many meditators are difficult to attain. It's something very distant, very far from them. How to attain this equanimity? Here's the path to see that everything is rise and falls. I heard also Goenka speaks about in his discourses that how all things rise and fall.
Oh, yes.
In theory, yes. In theory, yes. But in practice, as called, the emphasis is not given on that. I'm quoting from discourse the Buddha himself has taught it. So that's why now he divides this observation in two parts, as I show you in the chart. So then to know an object, to be aware of that, this awareness, all right. But that doesn't stop in that, to see what happens with this object, what is its nature, and give emphasis also to see that it rises, stays, and falls. Even these feelings, I give you the quotation there, what he tells, one sees how the feelings rise, how they stay, how they disappear. That is where the samadhi comes, the concentration comes, the vipassana samadhi. One gets the knowledge also. So therefore, if one gives emphasis on that, then actually one can see that it is nothing. Everything is in that flux, is a flux. Everything rises. It's not only the feelings. Thoughts are the same. Because if one sees one aspect of one say, oh, only the feelings rise and fall. But thoughts never. Never thought. My ideas are steady, fixed, very well. I'm happy that I have fixed ideas. But it's not so. Because people, they cling to the ideas, they cling to the mind. So therefore now we see only one aspect of ourselves, our feelings only. But what about thoughts? What about the body? So it is the same aspect. Therefore, we try to understand the 5 aggregates. I don't know whether you know this term, 5 aggregates of existence, or how 5 aggregates of clinging. We have, for example, the body, the feelings, perception, mental formations, and also consciousness. Consciousness also. We must understand what consciousness is. So how feelings arise without consciousness? Impossible. These are interconnected. There's interconnection. One must understand the interconnection of them, but at the same time see that nothing in this interconnection is permanent, to see the rise and fall of that. So therefore now the emphasis, Satipatthana Sutta is this, to see rise and fall, not only to be aware of an object. And to our surprise is that this is repeated again and again for every object from the very beginning to the end of Satipatthana Sutta. Now the object change, feelings are different, thoughts are different, body movements and breath and so are different. But he repeats again and again to see this phenomenon. This is a fundamental principle of rise and fall. So then that is Vipassana. Otherwise, no Vipassana. Just to see, to know an object that is in front of you, okay, everybody can do that. So to be maybe for 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes to be aware of that. Awareness is one thing, but that is not still Vipassana. That is, one has to go to the next step to see what happens with this object. What is its nature? How long it lasts? How much important it is for me to cling to it, to keep attention to it. So I identify myself with it. So that is actually where I know only few teachers who teach like that. So, but one has to study Satipatthana Sutta. Actually now Goenka also gets information from there. Sometimes he mentions Satipatthana and so forth, gets information from there. But as other teachers also, they limit themselves only in awareness of the object. So they don't give emphasis to the second part, to see the rise and fall.
No, but now, so do you think, because I've done some Satipatthana courses and I have studied it, but that's not what's in my mind right now in terms of the technique that I'm trying to adopt in a certain way, from what I'm trying to build on the foundation that I have already. But since that foundation is so much based in sensation, and we basically ignore other than the breath and the sensations, but anything that has to do with consciousness, or anything that has to do with the mental phenomena or the material phenomena, and of course thoughts and emotions. So that's where I seem to be getting, I don't want to say stuck, and I'm trying not to judge myself because I know I'm learning something new, but I find that do you think, let me just ask it to you like this, do you think that just with time, if I keep on just going steadily and, persistently, that I will get to the point where I'll be able to observe my thoughts and, emotions or that, observe them, and of course, observe the rising and falling of them? Because for the moment, what I do is as soon as I'm aware of them, I go back to my breath. Here's a certain type of technique.
Yes, actually, I could suggest you just continue with the practice you do. If feelings are more prominent, you can actually observe them. You go ahead, but also go to see the fundamental principle of rise and fall. Give a little bit more emphasis on that. Okay. So. And in that case, now you can see the nature of these feelings. And another step you have to do is to distinguish between pleasant feelings and unpleasant feelings. That is very important. Okay. Because usually, if unpleasant feeling goes, and we feel a relief, oh, how nice it is gone, and we release it, we enjoyed it. We don't know that is also impermanent. That is also pleasant feelings are impermanent. Actually, this pleasant and unpleasant feeling like two bodies attached to each other. If we grasp one, the other also follows. If we grasp the pleasant feeling, the unpleasant also will follow. Because we cling to pleasant feeling. That's why unpleasant feelings come. If we don't cling to either, so the mind becomes equanimous. It doesn't matter whether it is unpleasant and pleasant. The mind does not shake. Either towards, it doesn't get excited with pleasant feeling, doesn't get depressed because unpleasant feeling. So that is the equanimity we want to achieve. But it is a practice, as called, not just theory. So then you can start giving emphasis to the rise and fall, but at the same time, try to distinguish between pleasant and unpleasant feelings. And see that they have the same nature. If unpleasant feeling goes, you try to see that what happens next? Relief. That is a pleasant feeling. See how this relief and so forth also stays, and after it falls. So sometimes also neutral feelings come. Neutral feeling is the most creepy. Because that is what many people, they misinterpret it, like emptiness. It is so serene, like emptiness, it's called peace, how nice. And they delight in that. They can't see that all the feeling goes to rise and falls. They don't observe it. And they get disappointed if this neutral feeling next day does not come. What happened? Maybe did I something wrong? Maybe I ate a lot of food. Maybe the weather is not good. They try to find the external conditions. Of course, there are many conditions how these feelings change. But that does not get to some point if one see this rise and falls of the feelings. So therefore now you can start whatever the common practice you do, but just to enrich it. You need some enrichment. Otherwise you start stagnating.
That's why I'm here.
Yes.
That's why I'm here.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think Goenka is going to object to that.
I'll ask him one day. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bante, is Cienza Timuri next one?
So yes, please.
Yes, yes, we can listen.
Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Mm-hmm. So, I was watching the birth, and during that time, I realized I was trying to control it. So, and I didn't like that. So, I know, I say to myself, pleasant feeling, but at some point I forgot about that. But, it seems obviously I've got a tendency to try to control it when I'm watching it. And I'm just wondering, does that go away with more practice?
So, okay, even if you want to control, so try to see what happens with this breath. You try to control. So you can see the in-breath, no? You can see the in-breath, you can see the out-breath. You just mentally note in-breath, out-breath, in-breath, out-breath, whether you want to control it or not. But then go to the next step to see what happens with this breath. So see the nature of it, that it rises and falls. In-breath, you can see it as rise, out-breath, you can see as called as fall. Slowly, slowly, you can see you will relax and see that this breath follows its own nature. So whether you try to breathe in or out and so forth, we want to control it, it will go immediately back to its nature. So leave it slowly, slowly, you can leave it on its nature, to go by itself. Because even if we sleep, the breath goes on. Even if we go up, you are not aware that we breathe, but this breath goes on. The same way, if we sit, so then this breath goes on. If you read a book, this breath goes on. So it's not on nature. So in the same way now, you can start, even if you control it, you want to control, okay, do it, but do it mindfully. You just, by each in-breath, you mentally note in-breath, by each out-breath, you mentally note out-breath. 2, 3, 4 times like that, and then you can see the next step. The in-breath is rise, the out-breath is fall. And you repeat rise, fall, rise, fall, rise, fall. So see the nature of this breath.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think at the end of the fall, I tend to try to breathe maybe too quickly or too slowly than I actually naturally do. And that's what causes this slight feeling of trying to control it. But yeah, I'll keep at it. Yeah.
So then why you try to control? Because you can't feel the breath. Can't feel the breath naturally? Can you naturally feel the breath?
Yeah, it's hard to know where to focus exactly where it's most noticeable.
So then, if you can't feel it in the nose tip, you can you can maybe feel it in the chest or in the belly, whatever you feel it. Just leave it there. So you try to see the expansion and contraction of the body. That's called, if the body expands, it is the rise. If it contracts, it is the fall. So wherever you feel it, you do it slowly, slowly. You don't need to be in a hurry. So, and another thing I will suggest, Now, because this is a symptom for many meditators, if they sit to meditate, they think they are going to a battlefield now, like a fight. That's called. So in order to overcome this kind of idea and so forth, it's better to draw all your attention before you start meditating, draw all your attention to your body and tell yourself, relax, 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 4 or 5 times, so that the mind knows what it has to do. It is to relax. So after you relax, you can also take some 1, 2, 3, 4 times as called deep breath and just leave it, observe the natural flow of the breath. So if you can't observe the breath, you can, if thoughts come, you can go to the thoughts or to any sensations. But slowly you can train somehow, leave the body to function by itself. So, and see the rise and fall of that. If you do it several times like that, you can see, then you don't need to pressure, to pressure to the body to breathe in, breathe out, breathe out.
All right, thank you. I'll try that.
You're welcome.
Bante, next one is Mega.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening. I have a few questions. I'll go one by one. First is about the noise observation. So
Yes.
whatever noise you hear, observe it as the rise and the fall. So I can hear the dog barking, the car moving. I can observe them rising and falling. But there was a clock in my room and it was, the tick, tick sound was there all the time. It was just rising and it was staying. It was never gone. There was no fall. How should I avoid it, such noise, or what should I do?
Yes, for beginners it's difficult because especially if some noises are continuous and loud, they are going to have difficulties. This is normal. Therefore, now you try to meditate in a time when these noises are not there. So maybe early in the morning, all people sleep, and or any other hours which you know that there are not noises there.
Okay.
So this is very important. Another thing is that you can use sometimes earplugs, but I don't know whether you can find some good quality to use them. And that is how to deal with noises. To avoid them, try to avoid them as much as possible. To go in a place where actually you don't have these noises, or close the doors, close the windows. First, you ventilate your room after you close the windows, and somehow choose times when you know others are not roaming around. If you are in such place and so forth, I will suggest early in the morning is the best because most people sleep. So some meditators get up about 4 o'clock in the morning. So which is, of course, is difficult for many, but or 5 o'clock, maybe 6 o'clock, which still people have not coming up, moving up and down. So therefore, that is something which you have to consider. Otherwise, it will be difficult to meditate if you're a beginner with this noise.
Okay, sure. The next question is, what if I want to move in between the meditation? For example, my leg is numb and I want to, just move it a bit, or my spine is, not feeling well. Is it a good idea to move in the meditation when you are feeling uncomfortable with your body, or just to wait and observe?
Yes, you can move it. You must not force yourself and stay in a position which is so called unbearable. So then if it becomes unbearable, you can move. But you can do it mindfully, as I told you. You can see how when you start moving it, that is a rise. Once you stop moving it, is a fall. Okay. So that is, you can observe also that in this movement, there is a rise and fall. So you don't miss the point, at least. That is also meditation.
Sure.
That is part of the meditation. Therefore, in this meditation and so forth, we don't only do this while sitting, we can do it in any other way whenever you move the body.
Okay.
So, but main thing is don't force yourself, especially with this. If it's unbearable, you can move your legs, hands and so forth, and try to sit again. But with mindfulness, to know the rise and fall of it.
Okay.
You can also mentally note moving, and then see how this movement it starts, that is the rise, and when it stops, that is the fall.
Okay. And another question is, I was like all the time focusing on my breath, like rise and fall. And then most of the times I just get lost in some or the other thoughts, like different thoughts coming in. But not for a single thought I could observe when they are entering the mind, the way you say it, rise. But I can only observe when they are gone, like fall. I can observe now they are going, oh, this thought is gone. But for none of the thought I could observe while they are arriving or rising within me. Why is that?
Because some thoughts are swift. It means they don't have much energy to sustain the object, what they think about. They're very swift, they go. This is a time when the mind is diluted, means it brings thoughts, it generates thoughts by itself, confused thoughts, they come and go. So, but as I told you before, as I told you in the class, so then you just observe what is more prominent. Either if you can't see the rise, you can see how the thoughts stay. You can take them as a group and tell staying. They might come and go very fast. But if you take as a group like thoughts, you can just tell staying. Then you can see the fall. But if you see the fall, you just mentally not fall. Fall. You can mentally not fall. So slowly, if you do like that, you can see also that this thought, as called, there must be beginning. That's why they fall. They slowly you can see the beginning also, how they rise and fall. So you can do it either way. Take them as a group and tell staying. Or if you see the fall, you can see the fall. And slowly, also the rise may manifest. But if it does not manifest, never mind. Because some thoughts are very swift. You can't run after them to see when actually they rise. So therefore, you limit yourself, whatever it is within your field of experience, whatever you can understand. Other things you can't understand, you don't try to force yourself to understand, because they already have disappeared. Means the rise. If you can't see the rise, you just focus on things what you can see.
Okay. Yeah. One more thing, if time allows.
Yes, again.
There are certain thoughts that would reoccur to me all the time, whether I'm meditating or working or sleeping or anything. There are some certain kind of thoughts that will come again and again. And for them, I don't really have an answer to, maybe, and some questions, sometimes from the past, sometimes from the future, what would happen, what would not happen,
Yes.
You don't really have fixed answer for them. So your mind is keep thinking about it. And while I'm meditating, when these thoughts come again, sometimes they'll bring emotions of anger, sometimes anxiety, sometimes, multiple sort of emotions.
Yes.
It brings me somewhere kind of out of my, the peace and the serenity that I'm feeling during my meditation, because I feel really good, happy, and very light after every meditation. But these are certain type of thoughts that, takes me away from the feeling I really want to feel. So is there anything in particular I can do when these thoughts come again in my further meditation?
Yes, there is. You can try to identify what are these thoughts. If you want also, you can take a notebook. And now I described certain types of thoughts, like for example, thought with desire, thought with anger, thought with delusion. So these are the main categories for negative thoughts, if we can tell it. Also positive thoughts. Usually people, they never complain about positive thoughts.
Yeah. Right.
So then, but actually because they are cling to positive thoughts, they expect these positive thoughts to recur again and again. If they don't recur, they get upset. Understand? It's a vicious cycle. It's a vicious cycle. People, they enjoy pleasant thoughts. So the time they are there, they enjoyed it. If they are not there, they get upset. That is when negative thoughts come. Anger arises. There is also in other events in life is like that. We have a pleasant event. We think, oh, how nice. They may this occur again. If it does not occur, we become upset. So therefore now our clinging to the pleasant things actually can cause us most of the time to feel upset with unpleasant things. So with as called things who do not are agreeable with us, as called we get averse to them. We regard them as negative. And that causes us stress for us. So in that case now what you have to do, so in order to understand the situation of your mind, so start with observing these negative thoughts. What's called negative thoughts, what you think is negative. Now negative thoughts can be lust, can be passion, you have passion for something. So you can observe it, all right? It is a strong desire for something. So, and then there is anger or delusion. So if such things occur again, you it's called mental note them, or better you can use a notebook also and write them down so that you can remember. Because that is to do with sati. Sati means also what the Buddha uses, memory. Because if we forget, we are never going to learn. Sati is actually, if you translate sati, mindfulness, that's called satipatthana. If you translate literally, it's actually memory. It's not mindfulness. Memory is what the Buddha emphasized, because without memory, there is no way we are going to get knowledge. As the Buddha tells, a forgetful person, he is not meditating. There's no way. He is not contemplating. He can't observe anything because he forgets. So therefore, no, not to forget, I suggest you can keep a notebook and write down. So what are the most common thoughts that come? And while you sit meditating, now you know how to classify them. So in what category each thought is. And see, if thought with desire comes, or with some strong desire, passion you have for something. So you just mental note and see what is the nature of that. Go to the next step and see how it rises, stays, and falls. So if anger comes, you mentally note it. Now this anger can be also fear, can be also stress, can be jealousy, can be also, all this belong to the category anger. Because now jealousy also produces anger now. Because if you are not, we are unhappy because other people, they have something more, they have success than us. That is how jealousy comes. We are averse to other people's success. We don't like them to have this and that. And we compare ourselves, I don't have it, I have this. Why that a person should have it? So therefore, we get averse to the success of other people. That is how it is a kind of anger which arises in us. But I'm telling you, just observe what is more gross. If you observe anger, you must know that it includes everything, fear, jealousy, and so forth, even stress. So therefore now you can be aware of this anger, but then see how also what is the nature of that. To be aware of that is not enough. Try to observe the nature of that, how it behaves, how long it lasts. So it just lasts for little, so it falls, rises and stays and falls. Then you can detach yourself from it. You can see that there is no value on that. Because next time you see it, it goes. And most of these emotions like anger and so forth, we never tell them to come. They come. We never tell them to stay. They stay. We never tell them to go. They go. who are these? This anger, who is this? Is me? Is no way. Because you never command it to come. No? It is called, even if you want to keep your anger, sometimes it goes. If you want to push it away, it does not go. So who is this anger? How you can identify yourself with this anger? But if you see the rise and fall of that, you can understand. So there is no identity there. You slowly you lose interest, that you don't give a fuel for this anger to continue. You withdraw your mind and leave this anger, then you can see without fuel, this anger goes away. So therefore now you have to give emphasis on the rise and fall of that. Delusion is like that. Some are things, delusion comes like doubts. What about the future? And it's called worries. So then you can classify these thoughts as delusion. So fantasies and so forth, daydreaming, all these kind of thoughts. You can classify them as delusion, and then you observe them again and again. And you write down your notebook. So that is very important, because memory is called, it is a success for knowledge. Even for self-knowledge, any kind of knowledge. If we forget, we repeat the same mistakes again and again. We just get dragged along with this, it's called deluded mind, and ultimately we can't distinguish what is beneficial for us, what is unbeneficial. So that is one practice we have to do, and in order to disentangle the thoughts, put them in certain categories, and then start observing them. So, but another step is to go to see pleasant thoughts also. Now, pleasant thought is what we expect them to stay with us. So, and then this thought without desire, or thought without anger, thought without delusion. If you can observe that also, that is also a big progress.
And should I enjoy them when the pleasant thoughts are coming there, or again, should I simply...
No, it is, you try to see it completely objectively.
Okay.
So, and just mentally note them and see the nature, how they stay, also they fall. They also rise and fall. If you observe them again and again, you are able to see the rise of them. And then if you see the rise, you can see the cause, why they arise. For example, desire arises. If you see the fall, you can understand why it did arise. But if you see it again and again, see the rise, you can see the object, why this desire arises. It does not come accidentally. It does not come randomly. It did not fall from the sky, just in your mind. It came from somewhere. This must be an object, a desirable object. So something which excited the mind, then desire arises. Without our knowledge, sometimes this desire come in our mind without even realizing how they came. So therefore, you can see the mechanism, how this desire arises. If you see the rise of them again and again. So, but anyway, I'm telling you, just start what is more obvious to you and try to work it out. But give emphasis also on the rise and fall of them.
Sure. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So there are some questions in the chat box. So Megan has asked the question in the chat box. So how thoughts are different from mental phenomena? Now, thoughts actually, as I told you, thoughts with desire, with anger and so forth, you can call them thoughts. But a mental phenomenon is a complex thing. Complex means for a thought with desire to come, it does not come by itself alone. It is connected with something else. For example, with feelings, with perception, with attention, with memory. So there is a kind of chain reaction how a thought comes. So now this chain reaction, all the kind of causality, is a kind of mental phenomenon. It's a kind of mental process. So therefore now in our mind, if a thought arises, so it has causes and conditions how this thought arises. So these causes and conditions can be other mental phenomena, for example, mental factors like attention. Because we paid attention to an object, then desire arises. If we did not pay attention, how desire can arise? So, and there is also perception. If we have something, for example, we have a perception, this object is not for me. I don't like it. Therefore, how is possible desire to arise? Therefore, perception plays a role for our thoughts to arise. So in this way, our feeling is the same. If something is unpleasant for us, desire is not going to arise. Because desire arises if something pleasant, yes, desire arises. But if something unpleasant, we don't want it. Desire is not going to arise. Therefore now feeling, perception, attention, memory and so forth, all these is called, if you connect them together as a group, you can see it is a mental phenomenon. It's a mental process. So that is different, the difference between thoughts and mental phenomena. Nalini asked the question, does this deep meditative state, enlightenment, is similar to the state of deep sleep? Not at all. It is exactly the opposite. We call it awakening. A person who is in that state of enlightenment can stay for days without sleep and stay, as called, immovable in one, in one position of the body without moving the body. So without drink, without food, one can stay there for days. So, and be fully aware and no sleep at all. Therefore now it is a kind of absorption to a certain object. So for example, we call it Nibbana. If it is enlightenment, in Buddhism, enlightenment is Nibbana. The person who has attained Nibbana, he is enlightened. So that state of called, and that the object for Nibbana, it is that he has seen. He has seen that this is a phenomenon, which is called Nibbana, called no rise, no stay, no fall occurs. Everything ceases. The rise and fall of everything, the cessation of everything, it is called Nibbana. It's a phenomenon. So therefore now one gets absorbed in that phenomenon, one can stay for days without sleep. Christine asked the question, how do we do what, maybe it should be, what can we do when the thoughts are coming and leaving very fastly? So if they come very fastly and so forth, it becomes very not perceptible. We can't perceive them very well. It is called, then we just leave them by not observing them, because you can't just these thoughts. I just tell them like comets, like shooting stars. So they go so fast, so they become almost imperceptible. So then in that case, one can ignore them and go back to the breath. But another way it is, if they, one can perceive them as a group. Let's say it's a group, and tell them thoughts, thoughts, thoughts. One knows they come and go very fast, come very fast. One can perceive them as a group and name them or mentally note them as thought or thoughts. And then see how these thoughts as a group, they stay. One has to repeat staying. And then see how they fall. Again, as a group may arise. And then they might fall. So then one can observe them as a group, how they rise and fall. But usually these fastly going thoughts are actually diluted thoughts. We call it thoughts with delusion. For example, like daydreaming. If you observe daydreaming, the mind jumps from one thought to another. there's no coherence. There is no coherence there. That is the deluded mind. If one wants to call it as mind with delusion or thought with delusion, that is also okay. And see them as a group, how they stay, and then they fall. Again, they rise, they stay and fall. So one should perceive what is more obvious. If staying is more obvious, one repeats staying. Till they stay, one has to repeat these words. Otherwise, the mind gets involved with that. If you don't repeat these words, the mind gets involved, delights in them sometimes, starting to think why these thoughts came, why this, I want to meditate now, these thoughts should not come now. So then one starts the inner chatter. So instead of this inner chatter, we use these words, repeat these words, staying till they stay. When they see the fall, we say fall. So especially now, rise is just a small moment. Fall is a small moment. We don't need to repeat these two words very often. Means very too much. Rise is just a single moment. Fall is a single moment. But staying can last long. Then you can repeat these words longer sometimes if the thought stays long. So then by repeating these words, one does not get involved with these thoughts, one sees them completely objectively, and then it's easy to observe the nature of them, how they is impermanent nature of them. So Karis Hervey asked the question, what would be a manageable time to meditate for a beginner coming back to practice after many years? So manageable time, so you can actually put a timetable if you like, especially you can start early in the morning and see a convenient time for you. But as we already mentioned, see the time when there is no noise around and you can meditate without any disturbances. So then, and then whenever you have another available times, you can use it. But avoid meditating, especially immediately after the meals or when you are tired. So try to find times where actually you are energetic, alert. So, and you can put a timetable and try to stick to this timetable as much as possible. If you sometimes can't succeed, don't get upset. So try to come back again on the following day. So this is how you can manage the time. If you don't put a program, of course, a timetable, so the mind is also try to find excuses. Or maybe today is too much rain, it's raining, today is very hot, I have to do this small work, the other small work, and one becomes negligent. But if one puts a timetable, then one gets into a habit to follow it. That is how one can manage the time. So Aga asked the question, how do I deal when I get a feeling of anxiety during meditation? So we call this not a feeling, we call a thought with anxiety. Or so then you can call it thought with anxiety. Or if you're going to call it feeling with anxiety, the way you understand it, you name it feeling of anxiety if you like. All right. So I will suggest thought with anxiety. But anyway, if you want to call it feeling with anxiety, you name it like that. You become aware of that. mentally note feeling with anxiety 2, 3, 4 times, and then go to the next step to see how this feeling rises, stays, and falls. If you can't see the rising, you can start seeing the falling, the staying, or the falling. Therefore, now it is whatever it is within your range of experience, you can call it the way, even if the way you understand it, and then see the nature of it, how it rises and falls. So, just a moment. So Gregorio asked the question, would you suggest to create or think to a difficult emotion and learn to deal and become familiar with it, or rather just waiting that a strong emotion arises? So now with this meditation, we don't try to create something, we try to observe what is already there. So we try to see the nature of everything, not to manipulate emotions, however difficult these are. If they are prominent in the mind, we just mentally note that this emotion is there. For example, we name what this emotion is. You must be very specific, because these abstract terms, emotion, can mean many things. Thought can mean many things. But the more concrete you are, the more it's called particular you are, what kind of emotion it is, then it is much easier for us to observe it. So therefore now we can identify what kind of emotion this is. You name it, mentally note this emotion, you name it. For example, this anger. Okay, let's anger, or thought with anger. So you can name it and then go and observe its nature. What happens with this anger? So try to see how it rises and stays and falls. If you can't see the rising, you try to see the staying phenomenon, and then try to see how it also falls. We don't try to create any other emotions, and we try to see this completely objectively as much as possible, not to get involved with these emotions. Because if we get involved, we just put more fuel to this emotion to continue and come back again and again. But if we withdraw our mind and see it in a very objective way, we don't identify with this emotion, and we don't give it fuel for it to continue. So Laura asked the question, if a memory arises, what is the mental note to be made? So now, there are many memories. Memory is just a thought, maybe about how beautiful I was going in the beach, all right? Or how beautiful the moon was today. So this is a memory. We have to identify what is behind this kind of memory. So in that case, we have better to clarify. So it's called to identify what kind of memory is. So if it is memory with desire, we desire something, for example, to happen. Or it can be memory with anger. We remember somebody who scolded us and we got angry with him, upset with him. Or it can be a fantasy. We fantasize something which happened in the past. We try to explain it, to interpret it with our own ways. Therefore, if it were more precise, what kind of memory is this, whether it's with desire, anger, delusion, is much better. But if you can't identify it, okay, you mentally not memory. You just put it, name it, name memory, 2, 3, 4 times. You mentally note memory, memory, memory. And then try to go to the next step and see what happens with this memory. Try to see the nature of it, how long it lasts. So try to see how it stays, and then when it falls, you can mentally note fall. So therefore now, this is how you can deal with it. If you can't identify what kind of memory it is, whether it's good desire, anger, and so forth, with delusion. So Nalini says, during any kind of meditation I do, I feel as if my eyes are closing stage by stage, which means the moment I close my eyes, the complete darkness wouldn't appear, but after a few minutes, I feel like one layer of my mind, of my eyes, have been closed again, and it becomes more dark. It repeats for about three, four times, after which it stays in complete darkness. It is something normal or because of the light issue of the room making it happen. So I don't think it is the light issue in the room if this happens again and again during your meditation. But you can try to meditate in different places and see if it happens. Now, for example, if you go outside in somewhere and sit and close your eyes, try and see if it happens. You can experiment if it happens. So then you can conclude that can be the light issue in the room. But if it is not the issue in the room, it happens in other places also. So you can just observe the feeling. Now you can see the feeling. It is nothing dangerous what you experience. I don't think so. It is just how you perceive these things about the darkness. So if that is more prominent, you can either observe the feeling you have regarding this layer, it's called layer, which comes upon your eyes. You can observe this feeling, what you have. Because you tell, I feel like a layer of my eyes have been closed. So if you feel like that, you try to concentrate on this feeling. You can name it. If it is unpleasant feeling, you can tell it unpleasant. If it is pleasant, you can tell it pleasant. It depends how you perceive it. You can name it. But in that case, probably it can be unpleasant. If you feel it unpleasant, you can name it unpleasant feeling 2, 3, 4 times. And then observe how it stays. And then what happens? If it falls, you tell fall. So if it comes again, you can tell rise, staying, fall. You observe it again and again. And see how you can see that the mind becomes more detached. You can see it in a more objective way. So, and then you can overcome any aversion to this feeling or become indifferent, because I don't think it is something dangerous which can affect your meditation. Rupal asked the question, do these thoughts and emotions have any shape, color, and size? They don't have, but we try to give some color to them. We're like painters. So we try to give him some colors and shape. themselves, thoughts and emotions do not have any color. It is our perception which actually tries to paint them the colors we like to have them. Thoughts and emotions are actually immaterial properties. It's called. They don't have anything like that. Let's say now electricity. Okay, in the cable, if there is electricity, so electricity by itself, it has no color, it has no shape if it is produced. All right, it can be diffused, it can be but it has no color. It can take the shape only if you limit it to pass through a cable. So, but by itself, electricity has no shape, no color. So only if you touch the cable and you get electric shock, then you can feel electricity. So then you have the feeling, but that feeling has no color, has no shape. So you feel only the shock, but you don't feel any color there, it's called any shape. Something is like that, these thoughts and emotions, they move us. You feel sometimes the shock of them. If you get anger, you feel the emotion of anger rising. And it is called, sometimes our body shakes. So, and some thoughts also like that, they produce us, for example, movement of the body. If we think we want to go to a place, immediately we try to move the body and go. Therefore, there is movement of the body. Now, this kind of energy, like electricity and so forth, we can't see, there is no color for that. So, and there is no shape, but you can feel it. You can perceive it. You can actually understand it. So therefore now, these thoughts and emotions have no color. We try only to put color and size whenever it is, whenever we perceive a message. Amy asked the question, could you please help understand the 5 aggregates? Form, sensation, perception, mental formation, and consciousness within the practices of 4 mindfulness of trainings. Body sensation, mental formation, and mental object. Yes, actually, it is what the Buddha teaches in mindfulness, for foundation of mindfulness or application of mindfulness. So it has to do with the 5 aggregates. So actually in the Dhammanupassana, which is the observation of mental material phenomena, he specifically says how one can meditate on the 5 aggregates. Pancha Kanda, Pancha Upadana Kanda, there are 5 aggregates of clinging. So, but this is for advanced meditators, because meditators can't perceive things as groups. Now, these are 5 aggregates are a group, interconnected group. It is difficult for beginners to grasp a phenomenon which is grouped together. So therefore now the Buddha starts first to, what's called in Satipatthana Sutta, to tell the meditator to observe the body. So that is separately. The body, material body, is actually part of the 5 aggregates in that category. Okay. Now sometimes they put rupa, they translate a form. Actually it's not form, it is actually material form. Yeah, it's called, we tell material form or material body, it is a body. So therefore our body is material form or material property, it has material properties. When we observe the breath, it's a material property. If we observe the movements of the body, it's material property. So therefore now the elements, the heat in the body, the solid element, the liquid element, and the wind element, all these are material properties. That is how our body consists. That is part of the 5 aggregates and part of the practice Satipatthana. So then sensation or feeling, that is also part of the 5 aggregates, because that is what we observe. Thoughts actually it has to do with consciousness. It is consciousness plus anger or desire and so forth. That's why it is thought with anger. If we tell thought, if we tell consciousness and so forth, therefore consciousness is connected with, combined with anger in this moment or with desire in this moment and so forth. Therefore we have Chitta-Nupassana, it is actually consciousness plus a mental factor like desire, anger and so forth. So that is how you can understand consciousness in that moment. And mental formation is what? Now desire, anger, all these emotions are mental formations. So in this way now, what we do in the Satipatthana Sutta with the 4 foundation applications of mindfulness, we understand, we try to understand the 5 aggregates of clinging, how this clinging arises. Because we identify ourselves with the body, with the feelings, with the thoughts or consciousness, and also other mental material, mental phenomena. And we cling to them. Because we don't see the impermanent nature of them. If we see the impermanent nature of them, how they all, moment by moment, they rise and fall. So this clinging slowly loses its grip. And we can be liberated from this clinging, can be liberated from this kind of attachment to these 5 aggregates. So Cheja asked the question, hello all, does anyone know where can I find the recordings of this particular session yesterday once? I am interested in going over what is in the PowerPoints. Yes, other people ask about that. And by each email, we are sending these recordings. We're going to get them in your email. So as it seems, there are no more questions in the chat box. So then today we are going to conclude our session. So next Thursday and Friday, we are going to continue the program. Thursday will be the class about samatha meditation, mindfulness of breathing and metta meditation. And Friday will be again, like today, the Vipassana session. So those who want to participate, and already registered in the email, they will get the email, plus the recordings, what we have done this week. So we're going to tell you good night for everybody. Wish you to keep safe and healthy and good progress in your meditation.
Okay, bye-bye. Good night.
Good night for everybody.
Bonne nuit.
Thank you very much, Mante.